if you're on social media and you see a post about Halloween on some kind of Christian platform, you're not going to have to scroll too far before you see someone say something about Halloween being satanic. Hi and welcome. I'm Matt Sargeant. I'm the admin of the Redeeming Halloween Facebook page. I am also the author of the book by the same name. And if you were to check out that site, www.facebook.com/redeeminghalloween, you would find all kinds of information on how to approach Halloween from a Christian perspective while respecting people's differences in opinion. There's also links on there. You can find the book if you're interested on Amazon. And there's also a link for bulk ordering in case you wanted to save some money per book there. It's a great idea for book studies or Bible studies or any sort of small group gathering. In this particular series of videos, I'm trying to address the objections that Christians bring about Halloween one by one. If this particular topic is not the one that you have in mind, check out my last video on Halloween's pagan origins. And if that's not it either, go ahead, like, subscribe. You'll be able to see future videos that come up. There'll be a couple more this season, and I plan to do more in the next that will address other topics. Now, the Bible's clear. We don't want to violate someone else's sincere conscience, and we want to expose the works of darkness. We also need to be careful that we are not judging the motivations of other believers and that we are seeing both sides to an argument. And in my works, I want to show that Halloween, from a Christian perspective, is something that is valid to celebrate, even though in some cases others may be uncomfortable with certain aspects of it. So especially in this series, I'm going to deal with these kinds of topics of why Christians are uncomfortable with Halloween and why they don't have to be, or even if they still are, they don't have to judge other believers who aren't uncomfortable with the associations when they're handled with a wisdom and practicality that the Bible offers. One thing I hear about Halloween that is misguided is that it has satanic origins. Now, there's no doubt that in our culture's Halloween celebrations, we see the associations of hellish and demonic imagery. In the first video of this series, I dealt with the origins of Halloween, and there is nothing satanic in the origins of Halloween. Halloween's beginnings have nothing to do with Satanism as a religion or even humanism in general, as Satanism is humanism. It's not really the worship of the devil. And there's nothing to suggest that Halloween is a holy night for Satanists either. When you examine the objective history of Halloween, there is nothing to do with Satanism. If you remember from the first video when we talked about the pagan origins of Halloween and specifically with Samhain, there was that belief that the veil between the physical and spiritual realms was at its thinnest during this late October, early November time period. And it may have been believed that demons crossed over through that thin veil along with ghosts. There's really no evidence for that, but some people think that may have been the belief. And there was also the legend of Stingy Jack, which you can find online. It's mentioned in my book, that talks about this guy named Jack who had some dealings with the devil and tricked him and things like that. These things do not have any connection with the hellish imagery that we see today in our Halloween celebrations, so they are not the origin or cause of that. And just because Satan is a character in a story, that doesn't make everything that's associated with that story evil or satanic. Everything we know for sure about the devil is in the Bible, and the Bible is not a satanic book. Where this association came from, because there's no doubt it's there now. We see the pitchforks and the devil horns in the costume aisles at retail stores and stuff like that. We see it in movies and things like that, and therein is the key. The reason we see this demonic imagery at Halloween is because of Hollywood and the entertainment industry. As Halloween became more commercialized and as the entertainment industry saw an opportunity to capitalize on that, they began to market horror movies during the time of year when people were more likely to ponder supernatural things. So you started seeing scary movies coming out at Halloween. You started seeing scary themes that really had nothing to do with Halloween's origins, but they were scary and they were supernatural. So this became the best time to market those things. And then as companies tried to outdo each other and even themselves, we saw things get scarier and scarier and more demonic and more shocking. because bigger scares meant bigger bucks. One reader named Will reviewed my book and said that he even realized how time has turned Halloween into the production that it is today. And that as Christians, we can take this holiday and kind of sift through what has been added on so that we can celebrate Halloween within our faith if our conscience leads us in that direction. Now, Hollywood isn't necessarily responsible for every objection that Christians have with Halloween, but virtually all of the extreme elements have come from the entertainment industry. And this is really no different than Christmas, for example. Maybe the theme's not as dark, but we've seen how Christmas has become less and less about the nativity and more about Santa Claus and gifts. Now, because of this proliferation of satanic, devilish imagery during Halloween, the holiday has become really unfairly associated with Satanism. This imagery has led people to believe that there is satanic activity that occurs on Halloween, including even child sacrifices. Now, statistically, there is no evidence that there is any sort of increase in satanic activity on Halloween night. On Halloween, most people are either trick-or-treating, whether they're kids or with their kids, or they're home watching a scary movie, or they're not doing anything at all. Even if wicked people are taking something and using it for their own purpose, it doesn't disqualify it from Christian use. Just because people misuse computers and technology doesn't mean that we have to avoid it at all costs. We can use it the right way. It's generally assumed, if we're fair, that people who celebrate Halloween are doing it because it's fun and not because they are trying to glorify the works of darkness or the devil or any of his works. And there are some of us, myself included, that see an opportunity to encourage and celebrate our faith at Halloween. That doesn't change even if somebody decides to use it for a different purpose. Now, while there's no statistical evidence that Satanists are more active on Halloween, some people have suggested that Satan himself is more active at Halloween. Now, this theory doesn't really hold weight biblically because the Bible doesn't give any indication that Satan favors one day over another. There are some statistics thrown out there, and this is a true statistic, that twice as many children are unfortunately hit by cars or involved in car accidents on Halloween night. And there are people who attribute this statistic to some sort of malevolent presence that's more active on Halloween than any other night of the year. Now, not at all to make light of that statistic. The reason behind it isn't some sort of demonic force, it's probability. Halloween in America alone, there are millions of children on the streets. It's a wonder that it's not more than twice as many when you consider how many people are out on the streets on that night. So of course, the statistic is going to be higher. Now, some Christians might concede that Satan may not be more active on Halloween, but that he loves Halloween because it's a time when Christians are acting like pagans. Now, I've dealt with pagan origins of Halloween in the first video. We're dealing with the satanic influence on our modern cultural Halloween. I don't think Satan is all that excited to see your child dressed as a dinosaur or princess getting candy from the friendly old man next door. What Satan does love is when Christians are self-righteous and unfairly judgmental. So if Satan likes anything about Halloween, it's not generously and warmly greeting trick-or-treaters at your front door or encouraging our faith on themes about our victory over death and Christ's return and our resurrection, which Redeeming Halloween espouses. It's when we divide and we judge, when all really these Christians are doing that are being judged are having harmless fun with a clear conscience. Is it harmless fun, though? How can we associate ourselves with something that the devil has tried to hijack by squeezing in satanic imagery over the years? I think that Christians are wise to avoid demonic imagery. And if you're of the persuasion that because of the prevalence of the hellish imagery that you would rather just avoid it, then that's fine. I encourage that. I'm not here saying that everybody should celebrate Halloween. I'm saying that there's validity on both sides. If your experience with Halloween is one where satanic themes have been glorified, and perhaps now it just makes you uncomfortable or maybe it tempts you in a certain way, then I would encourage you to avoid it. We don't all have to give up something just because a certain group of people has tried to hijack it. And again, we're not even talking about Satanists, because Satanism doesn't really actually have involvement with Halloween as far as can be substantiated by statistics. We're just talking about themes that have been put into Halloween in order to make money. If we had to give up and separate from everything the world has tried to corrupt, then we'd have to separate from a lot of things. Instead, as Christians, we can not only redeem our culture, but we can show the world how things are to be done in a proper and more meaningful way. We can be light in darkness. And that doesn't mean that we just take things that are obviously bad and we Christianize them. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what redeeming Halloween is about. I'm not sanctifying an evil holiday. I'm trying to clarify what the actual origins and meaning behind the holiday are, and how it has been corrupted and confused, and how we can bring it back to something that is more in line with our beliefs as Christians. Redeeming a cultural practice doesn't mean that we have to embrace everything that has come to be associated with that practice. We can watch a football game and have a party on Sunday without skipping church. Just because our culture does it doesn't mean that it's okay to skip church, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong to watch a football game. Removing this imagery from Halloween isn't sanctifying it. It's actually bringing it closer to what it used to be. There's a sense that at Halloween we are mocking death. When Jesus rose from the dead, he embarrassed the powers of darkness. Now, some Christians will take this idea of mockery and extend it to Satan, bringing us back to our topic, where they'll say that I will dress as Satan or I'll include hellish imagery in my Halloween celebration because I am mocking the devil. Now, this line of thinking does work with my idea of mocking death and not being afraid of evil, and that is certainly appropriate at Halloween. I've warmed up to the idea to the point that if somebody else wants to sincerely carry that type of practice out, I'm not going to judge them, right? That's my whole point here. I don't imagine that I'll ever totally embrace it myself. First of all, I think a lot of Christians don't really understand the nature of hell. Now, I don't have any off-base beliefs like annihilationism or anything like that. I believe that hell is real. I believe that it is forever, or the lake of fire is forever. I believe there is judgment on sin. But I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding around this. And I'm not going to get into that now because I don't have time. I will include a couple links in the description on a couple pieces of work that I did on that topic of hell specifically, if that's something that you're interested in. But we'll steer back into the topic here. I'm not comfortable with all that imagery because I think it's unnecessary. And I think that when we bring that much attention to the devil, I don't know if it's really mocking him. I don't know if it really hurts his feelings. And I don't think it's necessary because it's not part of Halloween's true core. I think that we can mock death just as well by hanging up ghosts in our garage and putting tombstones in our front yard with Bible verses that mention the resurrection and stuff like that. Now, if Halloween was actually a satanic holiday, then it would be very hard to justify Christians celebrating it. But even the very name is All Saints Evening. That tells you it's not a satanic holiday. I think you actually can have more of a testimony, even with unbelievers, if you take those extreme elements out of your Halloween celebration and kind of present something that's refreshing and that's more family friendly. I think that would go a farther way of portraying a Christian influence and being a light in darkness. Thanks for watching. I appreciate taking the time to hear me out on this topic. There'll be more coming, so like, subscribe, so you can see those future videos. Once again, I recommend going to the website, facebook.com/redeeming Halloween. You'll find stuff all year round posted on there about the themes associated with Halloween. And of course, in October, that really ramps up. Thanks again, and happy Halloween.